Discover the incredible act of kindness by a poor girl that inspired a billionaire's son in his quest for redemption. Lily stood at the food bank, her face glowing like the sun breaking through a stormy sky. Just 14, she had the spirit of a warrior. Strapping on her well-worn sneakers every morning, she felt the ground beneath her feet and knew it was her fierce duty to support her mother, a brave veteran fighting her own battles at home. While others her age might be off chasing dreams, Lily was busy carrying the weight of the world on her narrow shoulders. Smiles were her currency, and she traded them freely, lifting those around her with her unyielding hope. As she sorted through bags of canned goods, she radiated an infectious optimism that calmed the anxious souls waiting in line. With every hug she gave, every warm word, it was as if she wrapped a blanket of comfort around them, against the stark reality of their struggles. The dull ache of worry lifted momentarily, at least for them. Then came Ethan, a teenager whose life painted a stark contrast to hers. He pranced into the food bank, flaunting his privilege like a shimmering badge. Armed with a seemingly careless confidence, his silver watch sparkled in the fluorescent light as he waved at the volunteers. That first glance between them held no promise. To him, she was merely a footnote in his quest to check off some charitable obligation. Yet, as the hours dragged on, he found himself captivated by her relentless dedication, a kaleidoscope of kindness amidst a sea of despair. Then without warning Maplewood was thrown into chaos. The skies darkened, winds howled, and rain poured like galloping horses. The sense of panic was palpable as power outages cast the town into near-total darkness. Lily's heart raced, but fear was banished by determination. "We can't just sit here," she exclaimed, pulling others into action. She organized her neighborhood like a conductor leading an orchestra, families holding hands, eyes wide, united against the storm. In that whirlwind of emotion, Ethan felt the suffocation of his old life creeping up on him. With thoughts of obligations tugging at him, he hesitated. He could easily run away behind his fortress of privilege. But as he watched Lily tirelessly muster strength, he realized compassion was a treasure far greater than the money that dictated his existence. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As he stepped forward, the weight of his father's expectations pressed down on him like a heavy anchor. But with Lily standing strong, reflecting grit and hope, he felt a flicker ignite within. Would he dare to break free from the chains of wealth he never asked for? Lily, eyes blazing with purpose, reached out toward the neighbors, her voice breaking through the storm, igniting a sense of community. With every step they took together, she breathed life into their spirits, determined to pull Maplewood from the jaws of despair. But what would Ethan choose? Would he confront his father and realign his values, standing shoulder to shoulder with Lily, the girl who had ignited the true meaning of resilience and empathy within him? As the storm raged on, heavy with uncertainty, the heartbeat of Maplewood hummed with possibility. The next chapter awaited, testing friendships and beliefs against a backdrop of lightning and thunder, where choices would redefine their destinies. Ethan felt his heart thud like the pounding rain against the pavement. The storm was more than just the wind and water, it was a tempest stirring deep within him, shaking the foundations of everything he believed. He took a deep breath and stepped out from the shadows of his privilege, finally ready to be part of something bigger than himself. Lily's voice cut through the din of the storm. "We need to help the elderly. They might be scared," she cried, her urgency sparking immediate action among the gathered neighbors. Without thinking, Ethan found himself following her lead, swept up in a whirlwind of purpose. As they navigated through the rain, Lily led a group to the nearby senior center. With each splash of water against his ankles, Ethan felt a layer of indifference wash away. People huddled together, worried expressions clear on their faces, and in that moment, he saw them not as burdens to be checked off, but as fellow human beings. When they reached the center, Ethan turned to Lily. What can I do? The words came tumbling out, unexpected yet freeing. He had spent so long trying to conjure strength from his wealth, but now he realized it was deeper than that. He could use his privilege to bring hope instead. Help me comfort them, Lily replied with a bright affirmation, grabbing his hand. Together, they entered the building where the lights flickered ominously, casting long shadows across the walls. The elderly residents were visibly shaken, others teetering on the edge of panic. Ethan felt a twinge of anxiety. What did he have to offer? But he pushed through. He found himself holding the hand of Mrs. Harris, who had a reputation for always being grumpy. It's just a storm, Mrs. Harris, he said with more confidence than he felt. Let us tell stories to keep our minds off it. He realized he truly wanted to lighten the mood, not for himself but for her. To his surprise, her face softened. All right, young man. How about you start with a good one? As he stumbled through a half-remembered tale about his childhood pet, he caught a glimpse of Lily working her magic with others nearby, her laughter melting walls, her empathy transforming fear into warmth. That was when Ethan understood, kindness was not a luxury, but a necessity. The storm roared outside, but inside, under Lily's influence, laughter began to replace the fear. They created a bubble of calm amidst chaos, with each joke and smile bringing them closer together. The lines between their worlds blurred, resentment faded, and humanity flourished. Later, as the storm finally began to ease, a strange sense of calm enveloped Ethan. Standing beside Lily, he marveled at her unwavering strength. She had shown him something incredible, that wealth means nothing without the willingness to share kindness. For one fleeting moment, he felt free, unbound from all expectations that monetary success could never measure the weight of their triumph against adversity, but as the clouds began to break, revealing the first rays of sunlight, the specter of his father's expectations loomed heavy once again. Would he be able to confront his past and embrace this new outlook? The unspoken question hung in the air like the faintest glimmer of the next storm gathering on the horizon. What awaited him beyond the sanctuary of the senior center? Would he choose to forge a new path beside the girl who had plucked him from the darkness? The answer seemed just out of reach, waiting to unfold like the first petals of spring in a world still shaken but hopeful. The moment the sky opened, bathing the world in a golden glow, everything felt different. Ethan looked at Lily, her hair glistening with droplets, and saw a new sense of purpose reflected in her eyes. They had fought through the storm together, and although the elements had raged outside, inside that senior center, they had crafted a sanctuary. Did you see how he smiled? Lily said, her excitement bubbling over. Mr. Thompson hasn't he really laughed in months? You should have seen it. She clapped her hands together, clearly buzzing from the experience. Yeah, but it felt good, right? Ethan replied, shaking off the lingering weight of his father's expectations. It was a small victory, yet it weighed a ton. The joy surrounding him felt like a raft in the middle of an uncertain ocean, a moment of buoyancy amidst a far-reaching abyss. I didn't know it could mean so much, Lily interrupted, her voice growing serious. Ethan, one moment like that can change everything. She scrutinized him, her determination palpable. You understand that, don't you? That every little piece of kindness matters. He nodded, but the knot in his stomach tightened. What kind of change could he bring, really? Back in his world filled with opulence, surrounded by the lack of emotional connection, would his past weigh too heavily? How could he translate this moment into a real shift in his life? Before he could voice his thoughts, footsteps echoed through the hall. An elderly man appeared, leaning heavily on a cane. It was Mr. Archer, known for his wisecracks and wild stories. I heard there's a party going on. I hope I'm not too late. He chuckled, the twinkle in his eye mirroring the sun outside. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest as laughter rippled through the group. Yes, this was what it was all about. I love a good story. You wouldn't believe the things I've seen. Mr. Archer began, drawing everyone in. His vibrant tales overshadowed the storm's aftermath, creating a tapestry of community and joy. As Ethan listened to Mr. Archer, he could feel the tug of his former life juggling for dominance with this newfound appreciation for authenticity and connection. He glanced at Lily, her uninhibited engagement reflecting the same comfort he craved. "Ethan, do you want to try?" Mr. Archer grinned, aiming his request directly at him. Like the spotlight was on. Ethan hesitated. What story could he tell that would resonate? Would they roll their eyes or lose interest? But determined to keep this moment alive, he took a deep breath. I can tell you about my first day at a summer camp," he started, as nervousness flitted through him. Yet as he spoke, he began to weave in the humanity behind it, the isolation he felt, the friends he made, the lessons he learned. He shared the goofy anecdotes, the embarrassment of sharing a cabin with the snoring champion, and the simple joy of roasting marshmallows. To his surprise, laughter erupted around him. Each chuckle reminded him that he was part of something real and profound. That's where the magic shimmered, lost souls finding joy through shared stories. He kept going, and with each unfolded tale, something shifted inside him. As silence settled after his storytelling, applause erupted. Ethan felt a blush creep into his cheeks. Their appreciation flooded him with warmth, but then, the gravitational pull of reality crashed in. What would his father think? What would he say if he knew? Those teetering expectations hovered like forgotten shadows in the corners of his mind. Lily gripped his hand, sensing his turmoil. "You're doing this. You're connecting. Don't let anything make you doubt that." Ethan took a moment, looking through the windows of the senior center. Sunlight danced on the surface of puddles like hope flickering in their hearts. But in the folds of his admiration for this experience lay the sharp edges of his background, ready to puncture through at any moment. How could he break free from a path designed for him? Ethan's heartbeat echoed in his ears as flashes of doubt raced through him. The stakes felt higher than before. Was he ready to confront everything? Suddenly, a loud crack echoed, a flash of thunder reminding him the storm wasn't entirely past. Shadows of uncertainty loomed once again. Would he follow this path of kindness, or would he retreat like before? The next decision loomed large and electric in the air. Ethan's heart raced as he stood there, the applause of the senior center's residents ringing in his ears. Yet, the sweet sound began to blend with a haunting thunder, reminding him of the storm just outside the glass windows. The admiration of the elderly crowd felt fragile, a delicate glass structure that could shatter under the weight of his father's expectations. The tentative laughter of the room began to fade, replaced by a palpable silence that pressed against him. Could he walk the line between his isolated past and this embryonic connection? He glanced around, his eyes meeting Lily's encouraging gaze. It was all too real, too beautiful, and for the first time, he yearned to prolong the moment. "Who's next?" Mr. Archer prompted, gesturing toward the vibrant crowd, as if to revive the moment with his playful energy. A few residents eagerly exchanged looks, their eyes sparkling with ideas. Ethan felt an urge to speak again, to dive deeper into this world, but his mind was cluttered with mishmash thoughts. Would they want to hear more from someone like him? The boy from the affluent neighborhood with the glossy possessions? Who was he to pretend he belonged here? Then he spotted Mrs. Jenkins sitting by the window, a soft smile gracing her weathered face. She was the quiet observer, always with a kind word for everyone around her. He had listened to her talk about her adventures, how she loved discovering the world through books. Suddenly, it hit him. Why don't we all share a story? His voice rang out, gaining strength with each word. How about we take turns? I'd love to hear something about you. The room buzzed to life as various residents began raising their hands, the collective eagerness transforming the atmosphere from stillness to delightful anticipation. Ethan felt a rush of pride, as if the very act of breaking the silence had stitched him closer to their fabric of community. "I'll start," Mrs. Jenkins exclaimed, her voice cracking with excitement. "Once, I traveled to Europe. You wouldn't believe it, but I got lost in Rome. Instead of panic, I ended up in a lovely little cafe." Her tale flowed effortlessly, filled with the charm of nostalgia and adventure. Ethan hung on to her words, enthralled not just by the story, but by the power of storytelling itself. It felt like a bridge connecting hearts from different places. As she spoke, he felt an invisible burden beginning to lift. Unable to break away from the warmth of this newfound kinship, he was reminded of those letters he had written to his distant grandfather. In them, he often shared mundane snippets of his life, unsure if it meant anything to the old man or not. The wind nudged against the windows, and the storm's remnants shifted overhead, reminding him it was still there. But somehow, in that moment, it felt like it was all fading. Laughter echoed in the air, and the swirling clouds transformed into memories, alive, shared experiences bonding them in this sanctuary. When Mrs. Jenkins finished, the room erupted in applause. Ethan caught Lily's eye, a smile spreading between them that spoke volumes. He felt empowered and vital, realizing how easy it was to inspire and uplift from simply showing up and being present. Suddenly, a clattering noise broke through the moment. The front door swung open, a figure stepping through without knock or invitation. Ethan's breath hitched. It was his father. Clad in an expensive suit, the shadows of an impatient world followed him inside. Ethan felt panic shoot through him. Would his father recognize this place he had come to cherish? Would he see through the facade of laughter and connection, dismissing it as frivolous? The unmistakable blend of fear and determination coursed through him. Would this be the moment everything he'd felt so far came crashing down? Ethan's pulse quickened again as the crowd quieted, all eyes shifting to the newcomer. What would his father say? What expectations would he voice? The room felt electric with tension, a fragile equilibrium hanging in the balance, and suddenly, there lay the choice before Ethan again. Would he let the storm inside him sway his path, or would he stand strong like the sanctuary he had found in these people amidst laughter, warmth, and kindness? Ethan, his father called out, eyes piercing. We need to talk. Ethan swallowed hard, caught between the tides of his two worlds, unsure of which shore he truly belonged to. Would he challenge the expectations or sink back into the life that had kept him isolated? The thunder rumbled again, but this time, it felt different, less like a reminder and more like a call to action. What would he decide? Ethan's mind raced, the tension in the room swelling like the storm clouds outside. He could feel everyone's gazes, curious, concerned, expectant, all fixated on him and the imposing figure of his father. The laughter had faded, replaced by an unsettling quiet that felt heavy in the air. Can't it wait? Ethan stammered, trying to find his voice despite the weight pressing upon him. He could hear the longing in his heart, yearning to stay here, to let this moment stretch and flourish like the stories being shared. But his father's stern expression held a tether to the past he wanted to escape. It's important, his father insisted, cutting through the room's soft energy like a knife. We need to talk about your future. The finality in his tone felt suffocating, like a closed door sealing off the sunlight. Ethan caught Lily's eye again. Her supportive gaze reassured him, but it was fleeting, overshadowed by the glint of his father's impatience. The electricity from the earlier stories seemed to flicker, threatening to dim amidst this confrontation. Maybe we should reschedule, Mrs. Jenkins offered gently, her voice a calm stream against the chaotic waters. She raised a hand to Ethan, her kind smile imbued with understanding. The other residents murmured in agreement, some shifting in their seats, others leaning forward subtly, like children eager for a more engaging tale. Ethan, I'm not here for that nonsense, his father replied curtly. The remark landed like a stone in his stomach. Innocent stories felt trivial in the face of his father's relentless ambitions. He could sense the rush of din behind him as a mixture of disappointment and compassion spread through the crowd, people who had trusted him to encourage their voices. In that moment, something inside Ethan began to shift. Weren't these stories precisely what had drawn him to this place? The warmth, the laughter, the shared connections that transcended age and wealth. He thought about all the times he felt like an outsider, balled up inside by his own insecurities. He didn't want to return to that isolation, not when he had begun to see a brighter path ahead. The storm echoed louder, a reminder that he was standing at a crossroads. He took a deep breath, the kind that fills a space with courage. Dad, he started, his voice trembling but firm, I think this is where I want to be right now. What do you mean? His father asked, brow furrowed with confusion and irritation. I mean this isn't nonsense. These people have stories that matter, Ethan replied, gesturing toward the residence. They have lived so much life, and I want to hear about it. I want to be part of it. With each word, he felt more centered, the pieces of himself coming together in a way that made sense. Ethan, his father said, hesitant but clearly frustrated, this isn't how we planned your future. We. Ethan echoed, more boldly than he intended. Do you ever ask me what I want? The question hung in the air, raw and potent. The room remained still, hearts beating like a drum in the silence that followed. Lily smiled broadly, her eyes sparkling with pride. I want to embrace this, Dad, Ethan continued, feeling his voice gain strength. This is real, these people are real. I don't want the glossy life that comes with your plans anymore. The older residents exchanged glances, some nodding, others whispering supportive words that floated to him like confetti. He felt each one wrap around him, a safety net built of shared experiences and resilience. Suddenly, a realization washed over him. This wasn't just a choice about where to be, it was about who he wanted to become. For the first time, he felt the storm inside calm, clarity breaking through. Ethan, you don't understand, his father countered, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. This place, these people are not a part of your future. This is just a distraction. The warmth within Ethan flickered like candlelight against the gusts outside. But maybe distractions can lead to something more, he said softly. It was a concept he never fully embraced until now, the pursuit of genuine connection versus hollow success. That he saw Mr. Archer nodding subtly at the back, a smile creeping onto his wrinkled face. Ethan's heart swelled, the act of challenging his father's expectations bringing an unfamiliar thrill. The thunder cracked once more, resonating through the room, but this time, it felt like a herald of change instead of foreboding. His father loomed before him, a figure on solid ground, but as Ethan stood strong within this newfound resolve, he realized the winds of this storm might just be in his favor. What would his father say now? Would he push harder against Ethan's desire, or was there still a chance for understanding and acceptance? The stakes had never felt higher, and although the air crackled with tension, hope began to blossom like wildflowers in spring. What journey would emerge from this moment of confrontation? Ethan held his breath while his father stared him down, the silence stretching painfully between them. It felt like a lifetime, each second heavy with expectation and unspoken words. Around them, the elders softened under Ethan's brave stance, the previous warmth of the room flickering back to life. He could see it in their eyes: pride, validation, and a hint of hope. His father finally broke the silence, though not in the way Ethan had hoped. You're being naive, he said, voice low and edged with frustration. This isn't just about you or these people. The disdain in his father's tone felt like a slap. You need direction. You'll thank me one day for pointing you towards a real future. Ethan could almost feel the cold air suck the heat from the room as his heart sank at those words. Yet, the warmth of the residence wrapped around him like a shield. No, Dad, he found himself saying, stronger this time. I want to create my own path. Maybe it's time to go against what we've always believed in. The murmurs of approval grew among the audience, their expressions lit with a mix of encouragement and concern. All the moments spent sharing stories, creating bonds, had prompted a fire in him that wouldn't be doused. Do you see this? He gestured wildly, his voice rising. Each person here has a story worth telling. They aren't just distractions, they are lessons, experiences, life. I can learn more from them than I ever could from a boardroom. His father's eyes narrowed, irritated but taken aback by Ethan's conviction. You think stories give you wisdom? He shot back, exasperated. What you need is strategy and power. These folks, do they even know how the world works? They live in dreams. Ethan's pulse quickened. No, Dad. It was a realization that struck him, lighting his spirit. They live in reality. They know struggle, perseverance, and joy in ways you can't understand through your walls of success. They know love. Lily leaned forward, the tension palpable around them but her expression bright and unwavering. She looked at Ethan, eyes glimmering with admiration, as if she were seeing him for the first time as he fought for what he believed. "Ethan, you could be throwing your future away," his father stressed, but doubt edged his voice. "Maybe I'm building something new," Ethan replied, not backing down. He felt emboldened, the adrenaline of this moment fueling him. "Real success comes from connection, Dad. It's not just about money or prestige. It's about the lives we touch." A light breeze blew through an open window, rustling the curtains and bringing the scent of rain-soaked earth. It filled the room with possibility, a metaphor for the shift in Ethan's heart. He could hear the elders continuing their murmurs. They believed in him. They were his community, and he wanted to stand strong for them. There was a flicker of a pained expression on his father's face, like a shadow across his brows that quickly dissipated. For a moment, it looked like he might say something different, something more understanding. But instead, his father's jaw clenched, an old habit of preparing for battle. "You'll regret this," he warned, not quite meeting Ethan's gaze. "Maybe," Ethan admitted, his voice softening slightly but still determined. "But I won't regret being true to myself. I can't just follow a path that isn't mine." The thunder rumbled outside, louder now, as if urging both of them to act. Silence enveloped the room once more, reflective. Ethan's heart pounded, but beneath the fear was a thread of exhilaration, the thrill of possibility. "Isn't it time we tried to understand each other?" he suggested gently, a hand extended, almost inviting. He could feel his breath hitching. His father's gaze shifted back to him, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. The storm outside seemed to reflect the internal turmoil brewing within his father. Their bond, fraught with generations of expectations, hovered in the air, thick and palpable. Could this moment bridge the divide? As Ethan waited, the tension felt charged with electricity. Would a breakthrough happen tonight, or would their differences push them further apart? He could feel the eyes of the residents on him. Did they hold the key to the answer? What if embracing their stories could reshape not just his path, but his father's view of success? The thunder crackled once more, and suddenly, everything felt on the verge of change. What were they both willing to give up for understanding? The moment hung there, fragile and alive. Ethan waited, heart pounding, eyes locked with his father's. For a split second, he thought he saw his father's walls crack, revealing a hint of vulnerability beneath the armor. But with a sharp exhalation, his father's composure returned, as solid as the granite face of a mountain. "Understanding?" his father scoffed, shaking his head. "Understanding doesn't pay the bills, Ethan. It doesn't build a future." His voice was a mixture of irritation and pain. It was clear this wasn't just a disagreement, it was an ideological chasm. "I'm not asking for a free pass into La La Land," Ethan shot back, feeling sparks of frustration. The elders leaned in, their breaths collectively held, as though the outcome of this moment could impact more than just the two men in the center of the room. "Do you even hear yourself?" His father's words were sharp, yet behind them was fear. "You think these stories will fill your table with food? These people, they should strive for more." Ethan's heart clenched. He took a breath, grounding himself. "Dad, they have something real. They don't measure their worth in dollars. They measure it in connection, in community." His voice shook a little, but he pressed on. "It's about making a difference, it's about belonging to something larger than your bank account." A cacophony of murmurs rippled through the audience as Ethan's words took root. Then, almost against his will, his gaze flicked to Lily. She gave him a small nod, a spark of encouragement lighting the air around them. His father noticed this too and frowned. "What are you hoping for?" he asked harshly. "A pat on the back from them? You really think they hold the answers to your life?" "Sometimes, the answers aren't found in the boardrooms, but in hearts." Ethan's voice softened, desperation mingling with his determination. I believe that's what you've forgotten. They have dreams too, and those dreams are as valid as yours. The storm raged outside, the wind howling as if it echoed the intensity of this moment. As thunder rumbled ominously, Ethan took a step forward, crossing into the invisible divide that had defined their relationship for so long. Dad, I'm telling you this is real. These people they've been through so much. They can teach us how to navigate life, how to truly live. The elderly residents shifted, their expressions a kaleidoscope of emotions, confusion, support, and a tinge of hope. Ethan felt their energy, it galvanized him. Do you think they trade their wisdom for your money? No. They trade it for understanding, for empathy, for respect. With a heavy sigh, his father ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration that only deepened Ethan's resolve. You're chasing fairy tales, Ethan. You're blinding yourself with dreams. Dreams can drive the world forward. He responded, his pulse quickening. How many times have dreams changed lives? You took a chance once, didn't you? Grew your empire. With each word, Ethan felt himself rising to an emotional peak. Why not open yourself up to something more? They're fighting to create their own futures, just like you did. In that moment, the tension became almost tangible, crackling in the charged air between them. Ethan's breath quickened, caught in a delicate web of hope and fear. Would this bridge their divide or shatter the future into irreparable pieces? As the chaos outside mirrored his own internal struggle, he fought against the despair creeping in. What if tonight was the night they both found common ground? What if, just this once, his father could see beyond the walls he had built? The door swung open with a gust of wind, rattling glasses on the table, creating a stir among the residents. This sudden interruption punctured the heavy atmosphere, cutting through the mounting tension. What if something incredible happens next? Ethan's mind raced as he turned to the door, wondering who could enter this urgent moment. Was it more than just a welcome distraction? Would it lead them to a breakthrough, or instead deepen the divide? Could tonight change everything? The door creaked open wider, revealing a figure silhouetted against the stormy backdrop. It was a girl, no older than 16, drenched but standing tall. Her dark curls clung to her forehead, framing a face that wore determination etched deep into her features. A quiet strength resonated from her small frame, yet there was vulnerability in her eyes, a glimpse of someone who had seen hardship but refused to be beaten down by it. Ethan's heart raced. This was unexpected, but it felt almost fated. As the thunder crashed outside, the girl stepped into the room, water pooling at her feet, her presence a moment of quiet amidst the chaos. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I heard what you were all talking about." The room went still, a cacophony of surprised whispers fading into hushed anticipation. Ethan's father's brow furrowed in confusion, while the elderly residents leaned forward, intrigued. I wanted to share something," she continued, her gaze darting nervously but determinedly toward Ethan and then his father. "My name is Mia. I live just down the street. I've been listening for a while now because, well, I know a little about what you're discussing." Ethan felt a rush of hope. Mia wasn't just any girl, she embodied everything he had been trying to express. He gestured for her to continue, his heart thrumming in anticipation. "They think those of us without money are just, the forgotten ones. But we're not," Mia pointed out passionately, her eyes warming as she spoke. "We build each other up. We take care of our neighbors. When someone is hungry, we share what little we have." Ethan's father shifted uncomfortably, clearly caught off guard. But the room's energy was shifting, drawing everyone in closer to Mia's words. "I run a little community garden," she went on, her cheeks flushing with pride. "It's not much. Just a few patches behind a friend's house. But we grow tomatoes, beans, things that people can take home. We trade what we have, and when someone is down, we come together. It's like family." Her words held a raw truth that struck Ethan deeply. He could feel his father closing off, but he couldn't suppress the hope growing within him. This wasn't just some fairy tale, this was reality. Mia took a deep breath and continued, "One day, I found an older man sitting alone. I shared my lunch with him. He told me stories about the music of his past and how he once led a band but lost everything. It hit me hard. He may have lost his fortune, but he still had a wealth of experience." There was a heaviness in her voice, a bittersweet reminder of what was at stake. Sometimes, we don't have money, but we have kindness. We have stories. We have each other, she said softly, looking down, her words hanging low like the rain outside. Ethan's father opened his mouth, seemingly struck by her honesty. It was as if Mia's stories were unraveling the tightly wound knots in the older man's heart. "Maybe," his father began, his voice shaky, "maybe it's time we listen." The electricity in the room buzzed with a palpable shift, and Ethan felt himself breathless with anticipation. Could this be a turning point? Mia looked around, a flicker of hope igniting in her wide eyes. "We all deserve our moments, we all deserve a chance." But just as things began to align, a sharp crash echoed outside, a massive branch tumbling to the ground, interrupting any budding connections. The tension crackled back, and Ethan could barely breathe. What happens now? He wondered silently. Would they allow Mia's story to sink in, or would the world pull them apart once more? As thunder roared, the storm outside seemed to mimic the whirlwind of emotions inside. What could be born from this moment of vulnerability? Would they let the cracks of hard hearts turn into bridges? Maybe this isn't over yet, Ethan thought, sensing a deeper conversation brewing. For a moment, the room was alive with the sound of the storm, drowning out any chance for reflection. Everyone's eyes darted toward the window, where rain lashed against the glass like a frantic drummer. The weight of Mia's words hung in the air, even as fear crept back in. "Everyone, stay calm." Ethan's father shouted over the roaring wind, his voice sliced with an urgency that snapped the crowd's attention back to the makeshift gathering. Ethan could see a flicker of indecision cross his father's face, the battle between skepticism and a newfound willingness to listen. Mia stood in the heart of this conflict, vibrant and still fierce despite the shockwave of fear rippling through the room. She spoke again, addressing Ethan's father as if sensing the shift within him. "You can't ignore our reality. We fight every day to create something from nothing. And no storm, no matter how great, can wash away the connections we make along the way." Her passion echoed off the walls, filling the silence left in the wake of the crash. The elderly residents leaned closer, drawn into her words like moths to a flame. Ethan's heart raced. Each pulsing beat felt like a vote of confidence in Mia. She had given voice to the hopes he carried, the dreams he nurtured in secret. And now, watching her, he realized this moment was not just an opportunity for his father, but for every person in the room, each one yearning for a flicker of hope in a time soaked in despair. "What can we do?" an elderly woman asked, her voice quivering yet steady. There was something powerful in her question, a willingness to be part of a solution instead of remaining passive. The atmosphere thickened as Mia turned to face the woman, her eyes lighting up. "It starts with listening, then takes shape with action. If every one of us brought even a little to the table, food, stories, time, we could be a lifeline for each other." Ethan's father shifted, the idea visibly weighing on his mind. For so long, he had lived behind the walls of privilege, unable to see the true strength of community. Ethan felt a spark of hope ignite in him. There was a chance that his father might finally break through his own barriers. What if we, his father began hesitantly, what if we actually helped Mia? What if we created a community effort? One where we offer our resources to support your garden. Gasps of surprise bounced around the room. Ethereal connections began to thread through those present, as murmurs of agreement rose to the surface, the culmination of pent-up yearning for change. Ethan felt his heart swell as he looked at Mia, who stood there, breathless, bathed in the light of potential. "That would be amazing!" Mia exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. We could introduce workshops, teach skills, even bring people together for potluck meals. It doesn't take much to start something big. But just as they basked in the warmth of enthusiasm, the storm intensified, the windows threatening to crack beneath the weight of the raging winds. A darkness hung heavy over their newfound hope, and unease settled in the pit of Ethan's stomach. Is this too ambitious? He thought, glancing at the faces around him. Would they be swayed back by fear? Would the storm extinguish their budding courage before they could voice their dreams? In that moment, he couldn't let it go. No, he whispered, determination swelling within him. We won't let fear win. A determined nod rose from his father's lips, igniting a collective surge of agreement. But what if the storm outside was just a harbinger of something deeper, a test of their resolve before they stepped into this unknown journey? As the night deepened, they stood united, ready to push back against the winds of doubt. But in the flickering light, a pounding on the door interrupted their unity, a desperate knock that echoed like the heartbeat of the storm outside. What now? Ethan thought, his heart racing in sync with the thunder. Would this knock bring new challenges, or buried secrets threatening to unravel all they had just begun to weave? The door burst open, and in tumbled a drenched figure, breathless and haunted. It was Mr. Jenkins, the local carpenter, weary and bedraggled from the unrelenting storm. He gasped, each breath a gasp of urgency. Ethan. We need help. My wife, she's trapped inside. Ethan's heart plunged. The room murmured anxiously. They had shared joy, laughter, and transformation, but now the reality of their lives hit them like a cold wave. The storm was more than just a physical battering, it was a true test of unity and purpose. Where? Ethan asked, voice steady despite the rising panic. He felt a strange calm wash over him. This was a call to action, a moment to put their newfound ideals into practice. At the corner of Maple and 3rd. The water's rising fast. Mr. Jenkins shook his head in desperation. I tried to get to her, but the streets are flooded. Then let us get moving. Lily leapt into action, determination igniting the fire within them all. We can help him. We just saved the seniors, we can do this. Ethan nodded, when suddenly a thought struck him. Mia. Think of all the neighbors around here. They'll summon their neighbors. We can create a chain of help. Exactly. She exclaimed, her eyes brightening. If we band together, we can save Mrs. Jenkins and anyone else in trouble. Without another moment's hesitation, they charged out into the storm. The raindrops hit like bullets against their skin, but inside them pulsed a unity that shone brighter than any tempest. Neighbor after neighbor emerged from the shadows, each joining their ranks. Together, they formed a human chain, linking hands as they ventured toward Maple and 3rd. The streets transformed into rivers, the echoes of drowning despair mixed with roaring wind. They were the lifeline, weaving connections that extended far beyond their previous boundaries. As they pressed forward, Ethan felt electric energy frothing through their efforts. The community was coming together, battling both nature and fear. With every step toward the scream of the storm, hope surged. We're almost there. Lily shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos with unwavering spirit. Ethan's heart raced, thoughts swirling around what could await them. Then they reached the door of Mr. Jenkins's home. It loomed ahead, suffocated by mounting water. The front porch was almost submerged, an icy torrent swirling around their ankles. But Ethan knew there was no turning back. They shouted for everyone to rally, pushing through fear and uncertainty to break through the barriers that had previously defined their lives. Mr. Jenkins. He called out, determination powering his words. We'll get your wife out. Just tell us where she is. Upstairs. She went to the attic. Mr. Jenkins shouted back, fear coloring his tone. Lily, take Mia, go up from the back. Ethan commanded, his own pulse racing. The rest of us will hold the door and hope for the best. The adrenaline coursed through them, fueling their actions as they scrambled up the stairs, urgency propelling them forward. Ethan felt the weight of his past fall away, replaced by clarity and purpose. The girl from the garden, the wisdom of the elderly, the kindness they had shown, this wasn't just change, it was a rebirth. I in the attic, Lily and Mia worked together, battling the rising waters. The storm lashed outside, but inside, their hearts beat in unison, a fierce fervor united them as they dried Mr. Jenkins's wife and ushered her down the staircase to safety. When they burst through the door, there were cheers from the assembled crowd. Together, they rescued Mrs. Jenkins, laughter mixing with victory. The claustrophobic fear began to lift, pulled away by sheer human compassion. Ethan looked around at the faces illuminated by the flickering lights from nearby flashlights. He saw relief and joy washing over them, the bonds fraying but transforming into something unbreakable. Tonight, we embraced each other through stories. Today, we've woven those connections into action, Ethan exclaimed, raising his voice above the storm still raging in the backdrop. This moment is just the beginning. We keep doing this. Each act of kindness, each story, each human connection matters. His father stood off to the side, the once stern face now appeared soft, illuminated by understanding as the storm outside began to subside. With hands held together, they witnessed the beauty of community forged through adversity, the laughter of children, the ease of shared meals, the beautiful realization that love, stories, and warmth meant more than wealth ever could. This was the spark of change. They weren't just saving individuals, they were rescuing each other and paving the way for a better future woven through courage, empathy, and unity. Ethan turned to his father, ready to bridge that final gap. We can create this life, a life where kindness isn't an afterthought, but the very glue binding us together. Will you join us? Finally, after storms and struggles, his father took a step forward, hesitating, eyes flickering with both fear and understanding. I'm ready to listen, he said simply, the fissures in his stern demeanor beginning to fill with light. As the last drops of rain fell, the clouds peeled back, revealing a horizon painted in hues of golden light, just like the future they were no longer afraid to embrace. The weight of expectations shifted, leaving behind only what mattered, a life filled with heart. Ethan's eyes shone brightly as he turned to the neighbors, their community, and they stood together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever lay ahead. This was the definition of a true family, a community built of stories and love, united by resilience and hope, and this was just the beginning. So, what are you waiting for? You need to subscribe now for more incredible stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the positivity. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending and let us keep the conversation going. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message about kindness and community. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your support means everything.